I want to take you back to when I was in school. Once a year in gym class, we had to run the mile. This was basically just a timed 1 mile running test toward the end of the year to assess your cardiovascular fitness. And I'm just going to say the mile was not a good time for me. I dreaded it. I can still picture that moment, standing at the starting line, just feeling anxious. And as soon as the whistle blows, I'm already falling behind. A couple laps in, my lungs are burning. I feel like I'm on the verge of an asthma attack. And by the end, I'm one of the last kids out there, slowly shuffling across the finish line while everybody else has already caught their breath and grabbed some water. I was not a runner. I didn't do cross country. I didn't do track. Running was something that happened to me, not something I chose to do on purpose. Fast forward to today. I've won races. I've stood on podiums. I've run sub 5-minute miles. And I'm not saying this to flex or impress you. I'm not a world record holder or an Olympian by any means. I'm just saying that if you had shown that middle school version of me where I'd end up in regards to fitness and running and athletics, he probably would have laughed at you. So the question is, what changed between then and now? That's what this episode is about, because it wasn't some hidden athletic talent that suddenly manifested itself. It wasn't my great genetics finally kicking in at some point. It was something a lot simpler and much more available to you right now, wherever you happen to be starting from and whatever goal you happen to be pursuing. Welcome to the VMAX Running Podcast, where the goal is to help you become a better runner than the one you were yesterday. I'm Coach Brad, and today we're talking about something that's on a lot of people's minds right now. We're a few weeks into the new year. If you set some running goals back on January 1st, I'm curious, how's it going so far? Maybe you're crushing it. Maybe you've been super consistent, the training is clicking, and you're feeling awesome. If that's you, I'm really, really glad to hear that, and I hope you keep it up. But maybe things haven't gone quite according to plan. Maybe life got in the way. Maybe the motivation that was so strong on January 1st has started to fade a little bit. Maybe you've already missed a few runs, and that little voice in your head is telling you that you blew it, and you might as well quit and try again next year. If that sounds familiar, this episode is for you. We're going to talk about why January 1st and the new year are way less important and way less holy than most people tend to treat them, why most goals are set up wrong from the beginning, and how a simple shift in the way you think about yourself and your identity can dramatically change your ability to reach your goals. Let's get into it. What better place to start than my hot take for this episode, which is that I don't care about New Year's resolutions, and January 1st is completely arbitrary. I know, new year, new you, fresh start, clean slate, it feels meaningful. And look, I get it. There is something psychological about it. I had a pretty rough year last year, and I am very happy to be able to turn that page and move into a new chapter. If that energy helps you get moving, that's great. Use whatever works. But I want to make sure you understand there's nothing magical about that date. The earth does not know it's January. Your body doesn't know it's January. The calendar is just a system that humans have invented to keep track of time. January 1st is no more special than March 14th or September 3rd or any random Tuesday. Now, why does this matter? Because if you set a goal back on January 1st and you've already stumbled, I don't want you to feel like you've failed. You haven't. You just picked an arbitrary starting point and you hit a bump in the road. And when you hit a bump in the road, you don't turn around and go home. You keep driving. So if your New Year's resolution is already feeling a little bit shaky, let me be the one to give you a permission slip to start again today. Not next Monday, not February 1st, today, right now. The moment you finish listening to this episode, you can begin again. And hey, maybe you're listening to this in March or June or October. If you've been waiting for the right time to start, please hear me clearly. There is no right time. Today is as good as any other day. And actually, today is better because it's the only day you can actually take action. Yesterday is gone. Tomorrow isn't here yet. Tomorrow isn't even guaranteed to happen. Today is all you've got. So start today. Don't wait until conditions are perfect. Don't wait until the calendar hits some nice round number. Start today. Okay, I want to talk about goals themselves for a minute because I think a lot of runners and a lot of people in general set themselves up for frustration without even realizing it. This is what happens all the time. Somebody decides they want to run a marathon, or they want to break 25 minutes in the 5K, or they want to qualify for Boston. These are outcome goals. They're focused on a specific result. And there's nothing wrong with having a target like that. You absolutely need something to aim at. A goal race gives structure to your training. It gives you something to work toward. So I'm not saying you shouldn't have outcome goals. But here's the problem. You can't control outcomes, at least not directly. You can't wake up tomorrow morning and decide to have a certain 5K time. You can't snap your fingers and suddenly be Boston qualified. Outcomes are the result of hundreds of small actions stacked up over time. They're what happens at the end of the process, not something you can grab a hold of on any given day. What you can control is your actions. You can control whether you lace up your shoes and head out the door this morning. You can control whether you follow your training plan. You can control whether you do that tempo run or those hill repeats or that Sunday long run. So here's the reframe I want you to think about. Instead of, I want to qualify for Boston, your goal becomes, I will complete my scheduled workouts this week. Instead of, I want to run a marathon, your goal becomes, I will follow my training plan. You see the difference? The first version is about a result that you're hoping for. The second version is about actions you're committing to. Actions are within your control. Actions are something you can actually do. And here's the beautiful part. Even if you fall short of that outcome goal, the actions still count. Let's say you trained for a sub 4-hour marathon and you cross the finish line at 4:05. Did you fail? I don't think so. You put in a lot of work. You built a really solid aerobic engine. You developed mental toughness. You learned how to fuel and pace and manage your race day nerves. You learned how to run a race. You are a better, stronger, more experienced runner than you were before you started. And yeah, you missed your target finish time by 5 minutes, but all of that work you put in may be setting you up for a 350 in your next training cycle. When you focus on outcomes, you set yourself up for a pass-fail situation. It's either you achieve it or you don't. When you focus on actions, every single day of consistency is a win, and those wins compound over time. All right, let's talk about the identity shift. This is the heart of all of this, and I think it's the key to sticking with any goal over the long term. There's this idea that you may have heard of that sounds kind of funny on the surface, but it's actually really profound. And that is the idea that the way you fall asleep is by first pretending to be asleep. Think about that. When you're trying to fall asleep, what do? You close your eyes, you relax your body, you slow your breathing, you lay there really still. You're basically acting like a sleeping person, even though you're actually still awake. And eventually, you're not pretending anymore. The act becomes the reality. Many goals in life work the same way. If you want to become a marathon runner, you have to start thinking of yourself as a marathon runner before you've actually done it. If you want to become someone who runs 5 days a week, you have to start identifying as that person before the habit is fully formed. Now, I know this is starting to sound like a self-help seminar, but hear me out. This is actually deeply practical. When your identity is, I'm trying to become a runner, every decision is a negotiation. The alarm goes off in the morning and you think, do I feel like running today? It's cold. I'm tired. Maybe I'll just go tomorrow. You're negotiating with yourself because running feels like something extra. It's something added on to who you already are. But when your identity is, I am a runner, the negotiation disappears. Your alarm goes off when it's time to run and you just get up. You might not be thrilled about it. I'm not always thrilled about it. But the thing is, there's no decision to make. Runners run. When you're a runner, that's what you do. That's who you are. And by the way, you don't have to earn this identity by hitting some arbitrary achievement threshold first. You don't have to run a certain pace or complete a certain distance before you're allowed to call yourself a runner. If you run, you're a runner, period. It doesn't matter if you're running 8-minute miles or 12-minute miles. It doesn't matter if you're training for an ultra marathon or just trying to jog around the block. If running is part of your life, if you're putting one foot in front of the other on a regular basis, you're a runner. Now, I will admit there is an element of delusional self-belief in this, especially in the beginning. When you've only been running for a month and you can barely finish a 5K without stopping, calling yourself a runner might feel like a stretch. The gap between how you see yourself and where you want to be can feel uncomfortable. But that discomfort can actually be the mechanism, the tension between I'm a runner and I can barely run 2 miles can pull you forward. You feel the gap and you want to close it. So you keep showing up, you keep putting in the work, and slowly, session by session, week by week, the evidence starts to match the identity that you claimed. Going back to my story from the beginning, that kid who dreaded the gym class mile didn't transform overnight. There was a long period where I had decided that I was going to be a runner, but my fitness hadn't caught up yet. I was slow, I struggled, but I had made the internal decision, and that decision shaped my actions, and those actions eventually shaped my abilities and my results. So a practical piece of advice here, pay attention to your language. Stop saying, I'm trying to become a runner, and start saying, I'm a runner who's working on getting faster, or I'm a runner who's building endurance. It's kind of a subtle shift, but it does matter. One framing puts your identity in question. The other treats it as if it's already settled. And when you're faced with a decision, whether to get out of bed, whether to skip a run, whether to push through a tough workout, ask yourself, what would the runner I want to be do right now? Then do that. So we've talked about mindset, we've talked about identity, but let's get real for a minute about why the early days are so hard and what you can do about it. You've probably heard that it takes about 21 days to form a new habit. The actual research on this is a little more complicated. Some studies suggest it can take longer depending on the complexity of the behavior, but 21 days is a great start and it's a useful benchmark. 3 weeks. That is the bridge you need to cross. During those first 3 weeks, you're fighting inertia. Your body and your brain are used to your old patterns. Getting up early feels hard if you're used to sleeping in. Going for a run feels hard if you're used to not running. Elements of your old lifestyle are always going to pull you back toward your old habits. This is the grind phase. This is where most people quit. And it's the reason that so many people have long abandoned their New Year's resolutions by like mid-February. The initial motivation from New Year's Day has worn off. The results haven't shown up yet. And every action you're taking toward your goal feels like an uphill battle. But I hope by hearing me say this, you understand that this is completely normal. This is supposed to be hard, and it doesn't stay this hard forever. If you can push through and be consistent during those first 21 days, something eventually shifts. The habit starts to feel a little bit automatic. You lose some of that internal resistance, and then ultimately getting out the door for your run starts to feel less like a monumental decision and more like just what you do in the morning. Most of us would feel pretty weird if we got up in the morning and didn't brush our teeth and then just went about our day. And that's kind of the level that you want to get to with any new habit that you're trying to instill. It's not a decision you're making, it's just what you do. And here's where it connects back to your identity. Once the habit is formed, it reinforces your identity as a runner. And that identity, in turn, makes the habit easier to maintain. They build on each other in this positive feedback loop. So when you're in those difficult early weeks, you need to understand that it is going to feel hard while you're still establishing the habit. You're crossing the bridge. And if you can keep putting one foot in front of the other, literally, you'll get to the other side. Mark it on the calendar if it helps. 21 days from today. Give yourself permission for those 21 days to be a struggle. Accept that you're not going to feel motivated every single day, and then do it anyway. The motivation will come later once the habit is established. All right, let's bring this all together with some concrete action items, because I don't want you to finish this episode thinking, oh, that was super inspiring, and then not change anything. I want you to actually do something with this. Here are 5 things you can do starting today. First, establish an identity statement. Grab a piece of paper or open the Notes app on your phone and write it down. I am blank. I am a runner. Or if that feels like too much right now, make it more specific. I am someone who runs 3 days a week. Whatever fits where you are right now. Second, define your action goals. What are the non-negotiable actions that you're committing to? Maybe it's I run every Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday. Maybe it's I do something active for 30 minutes every day, even if it's just a walk. Make it specific, make it achievable. And remember, we're focusing on actions here, not outcomes. What will you actually do? Third, commit to those 21 days. Mark the date on your calendar. For the next 3 weeks, your only job is to stick with the actions you defined. Don't worry about pace. Don't worry about distance. Don't worry about whether you're improving quickly enough. Just show up, do the thing, cross it off, get to day 21. Fourth, celebrate small wins. You got out the door when you didn't want to. That is a win. Take a second to acknowledge it. You finished an easy run even though you felt tired. That's a win. You chose to go to bed early instead of staying out late so you could wake up for your run. That is a win. These small victories might seem insignificant on their own, but collectively, they're feeding your identity. Every time you act like a runner, you become more of a runner. Fifth, and this is very important, when you miss a day, start again immediately. And notice I said when. You will miss days. Life happens. You're going to get sick. Work's going to get busy. And sometimes you may just have a day where you absolutely cannot make it happen. That is okay. One missed day doesn't break anything. But here's the dangerous trap. One missed day can easily become 2, and 2 can become a week, and a week can become, well, I guess that didn't work out. I'll try again next year. Please don't let that happen. When you miss a day, acknowledge it, let it go, and just get back on track the very next day. Don't wait for Monday or some clean starting point. The day after you miss is the single most important day to show up, because that's when you prove to yourself that one little stumble doesn't define you and doesn't derail your progress. Before I wrap up, I want to zoom out for just a second, because everything we've talked about today, the arbitrary nature of start dates, focusing on actions over outcomes, adopting an identity, building habits, this applies to way more than just running. Whatever you're working toward in your life, the framework is the same. You want to become a writer? Start thinking of yourself as a writer. Define the actions a writer takes. Commit to those actions for 21 days. Want to get better at your job? Same thing. Want to improve a relationship, learn a skill, build a business? Same fundamental approach. The principles are universal. Start today, focus on what you can control, become the person first in your mind, and let the actions follow. Also, try not to fall into the trap of beating yourself up for not starting sooner. I'll be honest, going back to my story of not being a runner when I was in school, sometimes I do think back and wonder what could have been if I'd started running earlier. I didn't do track or cross country. I just had no idea at the time that those were things I would have enjoyed. And I'll never be 15 years old and 140 pounds again. So I do wonder what kind of times I could have run if I'd started younger. But here's the thing, I didn't. So all I can do is stay consistent with my training as an adult and work toward being the best runner that I can be now. So whatever your version of I wish I'd started earlier is, let it go. The best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The second best time is today. Let me leave you with a quick recap of what we covered today. January 1st was just a date on the calendar. If you started strong and you're still going, that's great. If you stumbled, today is your new starting line. The date doesn't matter. All that matters is the decision to start. Stop obsessing over outcomes you can't control and start focusing on actions you can. You can't directly decide to run a certain time or finish a certain race, but you can decide to show up for your training. You can decide to put your shoes on and get out the door. Those actions, stacked up over weeks and months, are what lead to the outcomes you want. And even if you don't hit the outcome on the first attempt, you still succeeded by taking the actions. Adopt the identity before you've earned it. You don't need anyone's permission to call yourself a runner. If you run, you are a runner. So start thinking like a runner, start talking like a runner, and start making decisions like a runner. Give yourself 21 days to cross the bridge from this is hard to this is just what I do. The beginning is supposed to be difficult. And when you stumble, because you will, start again immediately. One bad day doesn't define you, and it doesn't change your identity. Your response to that bad day does. I started this episode talking about the kid who dreaded the gym class mile, the kid who couldn't run more than a couple of minutes without feeling like he was going to collapse. That kid is still in here somewhere. But somewhere along the way, I decided I was going to be a runner. I acted like a runner even when I wasn't very good at it yet. And eventually, the evidence started to match the identity. You are more than capable of the same transformation, whatever your goal happens to be. I genuinely believe that. But the thing is, you have to start. And you have to start today. Thank you so much for spending some time with me here on the VMAX Running Podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, it would mean the world to me if you could leave a nice rating or review on the podcast platform of your choice. It helps other runners find the show, and it helps me see what is resonating with you. So I really appreciate it. And if you're looking for a training plan to help you put all of this into action, the VMAX app is coming soon. We build personalized, science-based plans that meet you exactly where you are and help you become the runner you want to be. If you want to learn more, go to vmax.run, drop your email, and I'll be sure to let you know as soon as we launch. Thanks again for listening, and I'll talk to you in the next one. Bye-bye.